The long-awaited part 2 is here. In this emotional and final part, follow Kemi, a young girl who enters into a dark agreement with a snake in an attempt to save her dying father. As her secret unravels, Kemi faces unimaginable consequences. Relax and enjoy. When Rotimi got home that night, he was out of breath. Luckily, their parents didn't see him running into the house, so they didn't ask what was wrong. He went straight to his room and lay on his bed, staring up at the ceiling. He was just a boy, but even at his young age, he knew what Kemi had been doing was serious. He had seen something no one should ever see. He thought about telling their parents, but he was afraid. He understood the consequences of revealing Kemi's secret. So, he just lay there, waiting for Kemi to return. When Kemi finally got home, her face was still wet from crying. She didn't even stop to greet anyone. She went straight to Rotimi's room and knelt down by his bed. She couldn't hold back her tears as she begged him. "Please, Rotimi," Kemi whispered. "You have to keep this a secret. I didn't want to do it. I did it to save Papa." Rotimi sat up and looked at her, his face serious. He didn't say anything for a long time. He just listened. Kemi explained everything: the snake, the money, their father's illness. She told him how scared she was, how she felt trapped. In the end, Rotimi sighed and agreed to keep the secret, but on one condition. "I'll keep quiet," he said, "but only if I can come with you. Every time you go to the stream, I'll follow you. I want to make sure nothing bad happens again." Kemi wiped her tears and nodded. She didn't want him to come, but she had no choice. That night, she went to her room and cried. She cried until she had no more tears. As she sat on her bed, she felt a sharp pain in her stomach, like something twisting inside her. She gasped, clutching her belly, but the pain went away as quickly as it came. Exhausted, she lay down and fell asleep. Weeks passed, and Kemi stopped going to the stream to meet Ire. She would only fetch water and return home. She didn't sing. She didn't see the snake. She didn't take any more money. And for a while, life was quiet. But then, one day, their father's health started to fail again. This time, he became so sick that Kemi feared he might die. She hadn't gotten any money from the snake, and the little they had saved was almost gone. One evening, as her father lay pale and weak on his mat, Kemi sat in her room, holding her head in her hands. She was filled with worry and guilt. What should she do now? The snake had warned her that if she stopped sleeping with it, her father would fall ill again. She had stopped, and now it was happening. She didn't know what to do. Finally, she called Rotimi to her room and explained everything again. She told him how their father was getting worse and how she feared it was because she had stopped going to the stream. Rotimi listened quietly, then looked at her and said, "We must tell Mama." Kemi's heart dropped. "No, Rotimi, please," she pleaded. "We can't tell Mama. She won't understand." But before Kemi could stop him, Rotimi dashed out of the room. "Mama! Mama!" he shouted, running to their mother's room. Kemi ran after him, but it was too late. Their mother was sitting beside their father, fanning him gently when Rotimi burst in. "Mama, Kemi is sleeping with a snake," he blurted out. Their mother stopped fanning. Her eyes widened, and she turned to Rotimi slowly. "What did you just say?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Kemi is sleeping with a snake," Rotimi repeated. "Every time she goes to the stream, the snake gives her money. That's how she's been paying for Papa's medicine." The fan slipped from their mother's hand and fell to the floor. Kemi, standing at the doorway, felt like the ground had opened up beneath her. She was frozen in place, feeling betrayed by her own brother. She wanted to deny it, to lie, but she couldn't. The truth was out. She burst into tears, sinking to the ground. As she cried, that sharp pain returned to her stomach, stronger than before. It twisted and coiled inside her, making her scream. Their mother rushed to her side, her face pale with fear. "Kemi, what's happening?" she cried, but Kemi couldn't answer. She could only scream. Rotimi stood frozen, staring at his sister. Even their father, who had been lying unconscious, stirred on his mat. Everyone watched in horror as a snake, long and slick, began to crawl out from between Kemi's legs. Kemi, despite her pain, reached down and grabbed the snake with both hands. She pulled it out, using all the strength she had left. The pain was unbearable, and with one final gasp, she fell to the floor. Kemi was dead. Rotimi, shaking with rage and fear, grabbed the pestle lying beside him and slammed it down on the snake's head, crushing it. The snake twitched, and then it was still. Their mother screamed, holding Kemi's lifeless body. Rotimi stood there, his face pale and his hands trembling. They couldn't believe what had just happened. Later that evening, they reported the matter to the village king. The village was in shock. The king decided to set a trap for the snake, Ire. So the next day, Kemi's mother went to the stream, accompanied by some of the king's guards. She sat by the water, and the king's guards hid behind the trees, waiting with logs of wood and machetes. Kemi's mother began to sing, her voice filled with pain. It was the same song Kemi used to sing, and just as before, the snake was drawn to it. Ire slithered out of the bushes, its long body moving toward the sound. But when it saw Kemi's mother, it stopped. "You're not Kemi," the snake hissed. "Why are you singing her song?" Kemi's mother stood up, her eyes full of tears. "I am Kemi's mother," she said, her voice breaking. "You destroyed my daughter's life. Today, you will pay." Before Ire could react, the king's guards leapt out from their hiding places. They surrounded the snake and began hitting it with heavy logs and sharp machetes. The snake hissed and tried to escape, but it was no use. The guards beat it until it lay motionless on the ground, its life snuffed out. That night, the snake's body was burned for everyone to see. As the flames rose high into the night sky, many other girls came forward, confessing that they too had been visited by the snake. They had kept quiet out of fear and shame, but Kemi's death had given them the courage to speak out. It was a day of mourning in the village. Kemi had lost her life trying to save her father, but she had also saved many others by exposing the snake. Without her, the evil would have continued, and more innocent girls would have fallen prey to the snake's trap. In the end, the palace took responsibility for Kemi's father's treatment and made sure the family was cared for. But nothing could fill the emptiness that Kemi's death had left behind. The village would never forget her. What do you think of this emotional tale? Do you think it was right for Rotimi to tell on his sister, or should he have kept his mouth shut? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.